Picture this. June 11th, 1962. A dark, cold night on an isolated island fortress. Inside the world's most secure prison, Alcatraz, 3 men are about to attempt the impossible. This is the story of Frank Maurice and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, and their legendary escape from the Rock. Alcatraz wasn't just any prison. It was a maximum security, minimum privilege, federal penitentiary, home to America's most notorious criminals, like Al Capone, surrounded by the treacherous, icy waters of San Francisco Bay, with powerful currents. No one had ever successfully escaped. The official line was clear. Escape was impossible. But these 3 men were about to challenge that belief in the most dramatic way possible. So, who were our escapees? Frank Maurice was the mastermind. Orphaned at 11, he spent his life in and out of institutions. But he wasn't just a criminal. He was brilliant. With an IQ reportedly in the top 2% of the population, he was a known escape artist. And that's exactly why he was sent to Alcatraz, a prison designed to hold those who couldn't be held anywhere else. Then there were the Anglin Brothers, John and Clarence. They were career criminals, mostly known for bank robberies, but they weren't violent. They were a tight-knit family, and they had one thing on their mind: freedom. Another inmate, Alan West, was also part of the plan, but as we'll see, fate had other plans for him. The plan itself was a work of genius, born from months of meticulous observation and resourcefulness. The main weakness they discovered was the ventilation system. The grills in their cells led to an unguarded utility corridor. The problem, the concrete wall around the vent, was crumbling due to the salt air. Using stolen or improvised tools like a spoon braised with silver from a dime and a drill made from a vacuum cleaner motor, they spent months chipping away at the concrete, bit by bit. To hide their work, they created fake grills out of cardboard and paint, and to cover the noise, they worked during the prison's designated music hour. Every night, the sound of an accordion echoing through the cell block became the soundtrack to their secret project. It was a high-stakes game of patience and deception. But how do you disappear from your cell during the nightly bed checks? This is where the plan gets even more creative. They constructed incredibly realistic dummy heads. Using a mixture of soap, toilet paper, and concrete dust, they sculpted faces, and for hair, they used real human hair swiped from the prison barber shop. At night, they'd place these heads on their pillows, tucked under blankets, fooling the guards who made their rounds peering into the dim cells. Meanwhile, in a secret workshop above their cell block, they were building their getaway vehicle. They had managed to steal more than 50 raincoats, mostly from other inmates. Using a type of contact cement and heat from the prison's steam pipes, they painstakingly vulcanized the raincoats together to create a 6x14-foot inflatable raft. They even crafted wooden paddles and a concertina-like flute to serve as a bellows to inflate it. Finally, the night of June 11th arrived. The moment of truth. Maurice and the Anglin brothers slipped through the holes in their cells, climbed up the utility corridor, and made their way to the roof. Alan West, the 4th conspirator, had a problem. The cement in his cell hadn't been fully cleared, and his vent cover was stuck. He couldn't get out. By the time he finally broke through, the others were long gone. The 3 escapees scrambled down a pipe on the side of the building, navigated the treacherous prison grounds in the dark, and made it to the northeast shore of the island. There, they inflated their raft and disappeared into the fog-shrouded waters of the bay, aiming for Angel Island, 2 miles north. They were never seen again. The next morning, the prison was thrown into chaos. The dummy heads were discovered, the alarm was sounded, and one of the largest manhunts in FBI history began. The bay was searched extensively. Days later, some of their belongings were found. A paddle washed up on Angel Island. A wallet containing names and photos belonging to the Anglins, wrapped in plastic, was also recovered. Pieces of the raincoat raft were found washed ashore near the Golden Gate Bridge, but the men themselves vanished. The FBI's official conclusion was that they drowned in the cold, rough waters of the bay. They argued that the currents were too strong and the homemade raft wouldn't have survived. They claimed the items were found in locations that suggested the men were swept out to the Pacific Ocean. For all official purposes, the case was closed. The men presumed dead. But is that the end of the story? Not even close. For decades, intriguing clues have surfaced. fueling the theory that they made it. The Anglin family has always maintained the brothers survived. They claim to have received postcards and messages from them over the years. The most compelling piece of evidence came to light in 2013. The family revealed a photograph, allegedly taken in Brazil in 1975, that they claim shows John and Clarence Anglin alive and well, more than a decade after their escape. Forensic experts have analyzed the photo, and many believe it is highly likely to be the brothers. Furthermore, a deathbed confession from another Anglin brother, Robert, claimed he was in contact with John and Clarence from 1963 until 1987. There is also the story of a family friend, Fred Breezy, who claimed to have met the brothers in Rio de Janeiro in 1975, the same year the photo was supposedly taken. Then there's the science. A 2014 study by Dutch scientists used advanced computer modeling to simulate the Bayes currents on the night of the escape. Their findings were shocking. If the men left between 11 p.m. and midnight, as believed, the currents would have actually helped them. Instead of being swept out to sea, they could have landed just north of the Golden Gate Bridge. This aligns with where debris from the raft was found. The study concluded that survival was, in fact, plausible. So, what do we believe? On one hand, you have the official government position. 3 men, unprepared for the brutal reality of the San Francisco Bay, met a watery grave. It was a desperate, failed attempt. On the other hand, you have a mountain of circumstantial evidence, family testimony, a mysterious photograph, a deathbed confession, and scientific models that all point to a successful escape. The Alcatraz Escape remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. Did 3 ordinary criminals pull off the most extraordinary prison break in history, outsmarting the entire federal system and living out their lives as free men? Or did the rock claim its final victims, their bodies lost forever to the depths of the Pacific? The prison closed just 9 months after their escape, its reputation as inescapable forever shattered.